Hello everyone. Oh my god, that's so much better. Just been having some technical difficulties with the microphone. So I was just basically I have a title for this podcast. I have where I want this podcast to go in mind. And I want this to be about mental health kind of. And the reason that I am thinking about this is because I'm going out tonight and I'm sat here, I'm waiting for my friends to come. Z and A are coming from home and got an hour before they come. So this is definitely me trying to kill time. But also, I've been sat here thinking, I am really excited for this night out. And I've realised that recently I've been getting really excited to go out and do things. And I was thinking about it and then I was like, do you know what? This could just be a podcast because I was thinking about this the other day and have you ever seen those posts on Instagram and it's signs it's getting bad again? And I feel like I see those posts flying around quite a lot, but I don't really see signs it's getting good again. And I feel like that's kind of what I want this podcast to be, ways that you're actually doing better. And I feel like this was one that really stuck out for me was my excitement for things has come back. And I don't know if that's just because I have a more balanced life now. First year uni, I wasn't really doing much. I was just sort of I would go out in the evenings and then I would occasionally go to uni. A lot of my uni was online, so I didn't really feel have to leave my room. And sorry if I sound nasally as well, I'm not very well. Actually, I don't claim that. I'm healing. I am getting better. Sorry, I just sidetracked myself. Yeah, I would just not really need to go anywhere. I guess my, what would you call it? I don't even know what you'd call it, but I just didn't have a lot to do. And I think that's a big difference from now is I have a lot more commitments now than I did this time last year. I'm working, my uni course has amped up a lot. I actually enjoy my uni course, which I think has made a big difference. But also I think that because I do have these commitments that I have to do as a person that fits into a normal functioning society, or as functioning as we'd like to think we are, when I have time for myself, I cherish it a lot more, and I also feel like I utilize it better. Tonight is the first weekend back when most people are back from uni, and we've all planned a big night out, and we're gonna go out, we're gonna have fun, and we're all gonna see each other and reunite, and this type of night has happened before in sense of there's been nights where we've all been back, but we've never sort of planned something like this or done something like this. And I even noticed on New Year's, I had such a big gathering of people and we'd all planned it and it was all something to look forward to. And I was talking to one of my friends the other day about how she was I feel like I'm really struggling at the minute. I'm not doing so well. I feel like I'm working all the time and I've just got nothing to look forward to, and it's just making me feel flat. And I feel that so hard because when I was kind of going through 2022 was a bit rough for me, physically and emotionally and mentally, just in every sense. It was a very rough year. There was a lot that went wrong with my health and health anxiety. And health anxiety, for anyone that hasn't experienced that, it's horrible because it's you're constantly monitoring. I know with anxiety it's a constant, you're trying to control things to change the outcome or trying to achieve a certain outcome. And especially with the lifestyle I was living last year where I didn't have, say for example, work or a schedule or a routine to distract me from feeling those things that I was feeling. I sort of just spiraled in the sense. And I know what my friend was saying when she was saying about how even though she was working all the time, she is working all the time. It's that sort of thing of when you don't have anything to look forward to. I've been looking forward to this night out that I'm going on for a week now, and I've just been getting gradually more and more excited. And it was even to the point where on New Year's Eve, one of my friends, I was literally the day of, it was about 2-3 p.m. I was sat in her car and I was Ellie, I do not know what to do. Like, I'm so excited. Like, my bum hole is literally twitching. Like, I can't calm myself down. And like, I don't even smoke weed anymore. And she was like, Evie, have a bong. Like, please just hit a bong. It will calm you down. So I did, and it kind of worked. And then I went and had a nap, so it was all right. But it's just like, it's so funny because like, I remember saying this, I think this was around summer. The peak of my mental instability sort of hit around summer, I would say. And I just remember at that period of time, I was going to a lot of raves. I was working, to be fair, but I just, like, I don't know, raves, I think, like, they were so common that I just wasn't even getting excited for them. Like, there was no, like, excitement. And I think there was no, like, I don't even think it was because they were common. I think it was because I was just depressed and I didn't want to admit to myself that I was depressed, and like my will of enjoyment had just disappeared. And I think that's a really common thing with depression, is you don't necessarily feel sad all the time, you just feel nothing. And I mean, I'm not really the sort of person that gets bouts of depression. Like, I don't really get that. Like, I'm sort of more erratic in the sense of my mental health. Like, I'm not so much depression and anxiety. I'm more like, in the sense of like, I'll get kind of crazy. Like, I get kind of erratic, and like I make very impulsive decisions, and I make very like quick snap. Like, it's definitely the ADHD that plays into that. I don't know if it's a combination of anything else as well. I haven't psychoanalyzed myself enough yet, but yeah, just I feel things very intensely, and that was a sort of one of the first periods of my life where I was like, shit, I really just feel nothing right now. And I feel like that's sort of the first thing where I was like, I'm feeling things again. I actually feel things again. Like, I think a lot of people will relate to how nice it feels to feel things again after not feeling for so long. Do you know, like, I used to have a family member who I remember went through quite like a long period of depression when I was younger. And I remember at one point she was like, oh my God, I sang in the car on the way home from work today. I don't remember the last time I did that. And it's little things like that that are like little signs. And the thing is with these signs that you're doing better is they don't come around sort of like, they're not huge things. I think this is the thing with mental health, and this is why, like, I think Effie Stoneham and the Skins, what would you call it, narrative really kind of did us all a bit of a disservice for our 14-year-old developmental brains in thinking that mental illness to us looked like that. And don't get me wrong, it definitely can, and it definitely does, but I feel like that was sort of, for me at least, and I think a lot of girls I know, Cassie and Effie and their depictions of mental illness were like, it was like, if it's not like this, it's not like, it's not real, or it's not proper. And then you get a lot of people being like, you're not depressed, or you're not this, or you're not that, and it's like, I might not be. And then kind of, I think mental health is such a spectrum, like it's such a journey. Like, I feel like it's not, you wake up one day and you're depressed. I mean, I don't know if that can happen. I'm sure that can happen, maybe through like intense trauma, or maybe not, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's even necessarily a linear thing. I think you can, it's such a sorry about that, it's meant to wake up. Alexa, stop. And I'm not going to edit that out, I do apologise. I know that's probably really jarring, but I don't care enough to edit that out. But yeah, I don't think mental health is something that can really be tracked or like traced. And I've seen these apps and stuff where you have like, you draw a colour for every day of the year based on your mental health, or you have like a chart where you put in how you're feeling every day and things like that, and it like shows you like trends, which I think are really useful. I think things like that can be really beneficial to sort of show your evolution, because I don't think it's something you sort of necessarily see as you're going along. I think it's something that, like, you don't, I think a lot of times with mental health, whether it be depression, anxiety, bipolar, BPD, schizophrenia even, anything, sorry if that's not an extensive list, but it's not, I feel like, for me anyway, I'm definitely one of those people that doesn't realise it's got bad until it's bad. Like, and I think that is partly due to my skin's conditioning, where, like, I don't know, like, I don't think that I'm, like, mentally unwell until I'm making unstable decisions. Do you know? Whereas if I'd have had the proper, like, brain wiring at the age of 14 to understand mental health, and understand signs of when it is getting bad, or signs of unhealthy habits that will lead it to get bad, I think we'd all, I mean, I say me because that's just sort of the understanding that I have of it. I don't know if anyone else relates, which I don't want to speak for anyone else, but for me personally, I think if I hadn't been shown such extremes, and also the glamorization of those extremes, and this is by no means me trying to say that they glamorized it, because it was not an attractive view, but as 14-year-olds, let's not lie, we all did look at Effie and be like, oh, you're so cool. Like, we did. And it was a really bad idea. Because, and the thing is I'm not going to blame that on the writers, because, like, watching that now as sort of a bit of an older person, I can see the, like, devastation. I mean, she tries to K-word herself. Sorry, I'm not trying to, like, trigger anyone. I'm going to have to put a trigger warning in this. I don't want to use words that are, like, trigger words. But obviously I can't put in, like, a trigger warning. So I'm just going to put a trigger warning. Sorry? Are you going to put a trigger... What the fuck was that? I'm going to put a trigger warning in the caption or something. I don't know. Just because I'm worried about, like, making people upset. But, sorry, I just had, like, a mental thought process out loud. But yeah, I mean, so I've sort of moved, like, that was kind of my first point about, it was like kind of 2 points, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to move back into how you know it's going good again. I'm trying to keep it positive, but it was just kind of spiraled down a negative note. But I do think what I just spoke about needed to be spoke about, because I think it helped you guys understand my perspective on the situation, so you can understand where I'm coming from when I talk about what I'm talking about. So another thing for me where I realise I'm getting better, my urge to not call in sick or cancel plans. I think this kind of ties in really well with the first one of actually getting excited to do things and having the motivation to do things. And I mean, I took biology as an A-level. I did learn about motivation and, like, shit to do with that in your brain, but I can't remember right now. That was 3 years ago. I'm sorry, 4 years ago now. Oh my God. I'm getting old. I'm actually getting old. That's really scary. But yeah, I think, do you know, a big one for me my whole life has been calling in sick when I didn't really need to, because I thought that if I felt shit, sitting in bed all day would make me feel better, and it actually really doesn't. And I think I've learnt that, honestly, the hard way. Like, I've learnt kind of that as much as you might not want to at 8 a.m, when you actually go in at 9 and you come out at 5, you spent 8 hours distracting yourself from how you feel. You might have even, like, met a really nice customer or had a good conversation with one of your co-workers or something, and it sort of just pulls you out of that hole. Like, Z always says to me sometimes when I fall down my little holes, like, she just calls it, like, a hole. Basically, like, with my mental health, like, I like, fall down a hole, and then it can be for, like, an hour, or it can be for 10 minutes, or it can be for, like, a week. It's very rarely for a very long period of time, but it's usually around an hour or so. And Z is like, you fall down this hole and you just can't get out. And I just ruminate over everything that's happened. And, like, I'm a huge overthinker. I think, like, a lot of people are. And I just go over the same story in 100 million different ways. And, like, then it mutates into something completely different. And I think this, I guess, could kind of be, like, another thing that has it is a sign, because I think that is quite a common thing for a lot of people. Like, I do have quite a few friends who they will overthink something to such an extent, and then as sort of they sort of need someone else to be able to sort of bring them out of it and make them look at it in a different perspective, or make them feel heard. That's a big thing for me, is feeling heard. And I think, yeah, that's another thing with how you know it's getting better, is even though you may still fall in this hole, the hole isn't necessarily as deep and it's not as hard to get out of. Do you know what I mean? You don't ruminate on it as much. Like, what's an example I can think of? Oh, so do you know, this is an example, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily to do with mental health. I would say this is sort of just to do with my development as a person as I've grown up. But quite often there'll be things that I'll think about, and I'm sure quite a few people will relate to this, where I'll be like, am I mad about that? Am I? And like, I used to do this quite a lot when I was younger. I'd sit there and I'd be like, am I going to choose to get mad right now? And because when I was younger, I had no, like, understanding of, what would you call it, like, ego brain, or, like, I'm just getting mad to get mad. I'm not actually bothered. I've just decided that I'm mad. I would just get mad about things, and then it would just blow up. And for me, like, I was just like, my feelings are valid, and the way I feel is valid. I'm allowed to be angry, and rah, 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 rah. And then I'd fall down this hole again and be like, oh, everyone hates me. Oh. And it's like, yes, Evie, because you're just creating problems where there was no problem, like, because you're bored. And I think this is definitely just a maturing thing generally, but I do find that when I'm not in as much of a positive mental state, I pick at things more. Like, I have friends that do this as well. No shade. Like, this isn't me calling, like, any of my friends out, but I know that it's just a thing people do, where when their mental health is compromised, or, like, in a decline, they just pick out the negatives, and that's just a common thing because you're in a negative thought pattern. And I think when they're sort of coming out of that, like, so I had a chat with Z the other day, and I was like, she like got upset about something, and I was like, that's nothing I've not said before. Like, I've said that thing many times. And then I was like, why would you get mad at me about such a thing? Like, I do not understand. And then I was pissed off, and then she was pissed off, and then we were both like, what the fuck? And then I kind of like sat down with her, and I was like, what's actually going on here? Like, I kind of had to step out of my ego brain, because I'd fallen into my ego brain at that point. And I was like, what's actually going on? And then she was like, I'm just having a hard day. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I should have just asked you instead of assuming that it was all about me. Because, like I say 100 million times, literally nothing in this world is ever about you, because we're really not that important in anyone else's story, even if it is your best mate. And that was a perfect example of, she was just having a bad day. And even though, this is why I say quite a lot that it's not what you say, it's how the person receives it, you know? Like, you could say the same thing to 3 different people, they're all going to receive it differently based on their own conditioning and what sort of day they're having, whatever. That is an exact example of that, you know? It's like, because she was having a bit of a rough day that day, it was taken in like an attack sense, and then I reciprocated that as an attack. And this just shows that as much as I can come on here and I can preach like whatever I preach, I want to be very transparent in the fact that, like, I still have disagreements with my friends. I still have times where, like, their bad day, I let their bad days affect my day, or their, like, my bad days affect them. And do you know what I mean? It's like, it's still a learning curve. Like, I'm only 20, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of, don't, like, think that just because I come on here and I talk about all this, like, stuff, that I'm like, oh, love and light. Also, I don't believe in love and light. No, I do believe in it, but I think there's half of it, isn't it? It's like yin yang. Like, please don't think that just because I can talk about all this, I am not like screaming, crying, spluttering down the phone to my friends because I can't like find my specific pen that I need, because I am. Like, I think a very big part of, and you know, I will segue this into my next point. Another thing with being able to acknowledge when things are getting better is being able to, sorry, I'm just repeating myself, being able to acknowledge when you're in the wrong. And I don't even like using the word wrong, but when you maybe spoke in a way that you shouldn't have, or spoke out of turn, or spoke out of hand, like take that situation from me and Z. I sort of acknowledged that I took her upset personally, and I was like, well, I haven't done anything wrong, no, blah, 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 blah. But then after a while, I had to sort of drop my ego and be like, no, Evie, like, snap out of it. But if I was in a very bad place mentally, I sort of wouldn't be able to do that as easily, and I definitely have seen that as a pattern within my life. Sorry, I really need to blow my nose, hold on. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that as a pattern within my life where I can sort of, as I feel more comfortable and confident in my mental state, I'm not so worried about other people's perceptions of me, and I'm not so, like, I don't know if anyone else gets this, but when you have anxiety, you're always worried about what other people think of you, and you're always worried about, are people mad at me, are people going to be angry at me over whatever I say? And do you know, like, I had a chat with one of my housemates the other day, actually no, it was today, we were in Cafe Nero, and I was like, guys, I have just been simply choosing violence recently. Like, I think I said this in a podcast a while ago, but I was like, I have been speaking my mind, and I have been speaking it true and free, and I have been active on how I feel about things. And they were like, yeah, but like, that's fine. Like, you're not actively doing anything. Like, there's like a situation going on at the minute where I am actively very upset about things that have happened. But like, they were like, you haven't acted on it, you know, like, you haven't gone out of your way to like do anything that would make the scene bigger. You're just expressing how you feel. And I feel like that's something that a couple months ago, when I wasn't in such a good mental place, I wouldn't have spoken on it, because I would have been like, if I speak on, I used to have this thing where like, I was like, if I speak on how I feel, everyone's just gonna think I'm an idiot, and they think I'm chatting shit. And I think that really comes along with having good friends. And when you have good friends, you can really sort of feel heard. And a big part, you know, like, I went through this period of time over summer where I was having quite a few friendship issues to do with like not feeling supported in a breakup I was in. And it sort of took one of my friends to go, do you know, I can sit here and I can talk to you and I can empathize with you without understanding it. Like, I can understand and listen to how you feel without relating, because it's not happened to me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was sort of a big thing for me, was learning that you need to have friends that can hear you, because if you don't feel heard, I think what I'm trying to say is, when you can scream and shout about something and rant and rave and not have to act out and cause a scene, and that doesn't make you a bad person. And I had this whole crisis a while ago, being like, if I'm talking to someone about how I feel, that's me chatting shit. And because that's what I was told. And looking back, that was a really toxic mindset that was put upon me. And now I think I'm really lucky, like, within the people that I have, where I can understand. And I think this is important for anyone. I feel like, I don't know why I'm getting like a job come into my head, that someone needs to know this. Someone's going through something where they're being told by their friends that them explaining how they feel about something is causing them to close off, or like close up. And the thing is you need to release it. Like, whether or not you have people to release it to, if you don't have people to actively release it to, write it down. But you really need to, and this is, I think, why I know that I'm doing so much better at the minute, because I'm openly speaking on how I feel and how angry I am, and I'm not holding back, but I'm not actively doing things to instigate the situation further, which I feel is sort of a big sign of improvement. Because normally do you know, like, when you do that thing where you're like, I'm not mad, but then you'll like comment something snidey, like someone will say something, or like the person that's pissed you off will do something, and you'll just make a dig at them, or you'll make a little diggy comment or something. Like, I would normally do that, But now I'm just like, yes, I'm fuming, I'm angry, but I'm not going to do anything because I know that's just rising to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is a sign of growth that I guess is, I feel like not so much spoken about how I mean, it's definitely spoken about that we can have our sort of outlet, but it's not so spoken about, I think, that having a verbal outlet and an emotional outlet in the sense of having people to confide in really helps. Whereas if you just sort of bottle it up and keep it in, it is going to come out one way or another. Emotions are like it's literally energy, and energy needs to be released at some point or another. I think I'm going to leave it there. Do you know, this is quite a short podcast, but I feel like maybe it'd be more digestible for people in that sense. Sorry to do this, but I'm really getting the name Tilly come to mind. So I don't know what that means, but it's really coming to mind, and it's been screaming in my ear for the last 10 minutes. So if that means anything to anyone, there we go. I hope Tilly or Matilda or T-name, I hope you understand. I don't know why that is a thing. I just felt it needed to be said. Thank you guys so much for listening. Love you guys. Bye. Mwah.